Good evening. I just wanted to hop on here for a few seconds and take a few moments to really celebrate something. Today's a great day for me in that it's been 4 years to the day since my diagnosis with Lyme disease. And while some of you are like, oh, okay, whatever, I have to just let you know that it was 7 years that I went looking for an answer. Really, I went to doctors for 3 to 4 years, the first 3 to 4 years of that 7-year chunk, and was struggling to get an answer for what was going wrong with me. I was suffering from severe fatigue. I had a lot of brain fog. I had memory issues. I struggled to get words to come out right. I couldn't remember people's names. I had a lot of neck cracking issues in the beginning. And so for a while, those were just the symptoms that I was having. And I was told it was from stress. And then I slowly started to have the strained sensation in the left side of my face. And after going to so many doctors and just being continuously told it was stress or depression, I sort of veered off of that path. But then the fatigue just kept getting worse. And I can remember actually I went to my dentist, and my head dentist asked me if I was feeling a lot of fatigue because the plaque on my teeth had changed. So she was the only medical person that really said, yeah, I think there's something going on here. You should go get looked at for a thyroid problem, anemia, diabetes, or vitamin D deficiency, which I believe I actually already had been screened for all of those things up to that moment in time. But I enthusiastically went back thinking, okay, maybe this is what my problem is. And I wound up then also getting a sleep study test done because the fatigue was so bad. I thought potentially I had apnea because that does run in my family. A lot of my relatives have it. And I was like, all right, maybe I've got that. And I wound up not having apnea. They kept me for nap study the next day, and I had to take a nap 5 different times for 20 minutes. And it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but evidently I went into REM within 5 minutes in 3 of those sessions, which then they told me I had narcolepsy. And looking back now and knowing what I know, and I can see what happens to our brain when we have Lyme, it becomes inflamed, and that can oftentimes affect our sleep pattern, which can mimic narcolepsy. I've learned this in some of the lectures I've sat through. So they weren't too far off on that diagnosis in a sense, but they put me on a stimulant, which did nothing for me. And it did cost a fair amount of money. Even though I had insurance, it still was a costly drug, and I just opted not to take it anymore because I didn't feel any change in my body. I still was so tired. And then I wound up getting screened for allergies. One of my thyroid readings came back a little bit off, and they had a specialist read that, and he told me everything was fine. I remember also my white blood cell count was up, which they attributed to me just getting over a cold. So there were these little symptoms, and I also had crazy hives. Remember, I would get hives all the time from sweating, which is odd, but I mean, it's obviously a temperature-driven type of reaction, but they told me I was allergic to my own sweat. And I knew that wasn't the right answer either, but I had no idea what the problem really was. They kept just telling me all these things, but I knew deep down inside that none of that was correct. So after about 4 years of trying, I just gave up. And I assumed that God made me defective. That's just how I was. At the time, I also smoked cigarettes, and I thought potentially that was impacting my oxygen ratio or something, so I quit. And I'm grateful I did anyways. That was a bad habit. But there were just some other things that I was doing that I was like, okay, maybe if I change that. I changed my detergents. I started to stand on a piece of tin foil by the end to dissipate electromagnetic frequencies while I was brushing my teeth because I thought maybe that's what it was. Like, I was really getting desperate. And then really more towards the end, I started to have a lot of dizziness. I started to lose the hearing in my left ear. I had heart fluttering problems. I had a lot of anxiety and OCD issues as well, and anger. I think that was in conjunction with the illness, but also I was really pissed off because I was feeling like poop so much all the time, and I just couldn't understand, and I was mad at God. I'd go to church sometimes with my mom, and I would just sit there, and I'd be so mad when I would see Jesus on the cross, and I would be very resentful and just like begging him in my head, like, why is my life like this? Why do I feel so awful? Why is this happening to me? And eventually I got so concerned when I was driving because of the dizziness that I went back to doctors. I did ask for help finding more of an Eastern-minded physician by this time, because I just felt that Western medicine was not serving me well, because here I was just feeling awful all the time, really angry and upset, and now I started to have heart fluttering problems too. That freaked me out. And then I can remember thinking that possibly I had a brain tumor, because I just was struggling so much. It felt like it was living here in my head. And again, with all of my cognitive function, I struggled horribly, and I'm not used to that. I'm a pretty smart person, I like to think. And I could hardly function. It was horrible. So I decided it was a brain tumor. I told my parents finally that that's what I thought it was, that I was going to a doctor to talk to them about a brain tumor. My mom and dad were like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about, because I kind of hid it from the world too. After like 3 to 4 years again of being told that there was really nothing wrong with me other than stress and depression, you just sort of stop talking about it. And at least that's what I did. I stopped talking about it to people, because I felt like since I didn't have an actual medical diagnosis, that I was a little bit crazy. And you know, what do you tell people? Like, I just feel horrible all the time. I'm so tired. I feel ratty. And they just kind of look at you like, okay. And you're like, oh my God, but I just feel so horrible. So I'm really grateful again to finally have gone back and been referred to the place that I was, because that lady actually listened to me. She gave me an EKG. She really sat with me. She let me know my heart was okay, because again, I was a little bit panicky because the heart fluttering stuff started to happen. That really just concerned me tremendously. And that part was all good. But I think that lady knew that day pretty much that I already had Lyme disease when I left, because she had said she diagnosed 4 people that week already with Lyme, and it was only a Wednesday, and I was like, oh man. So then that Friday, sure enough, I got a call to say I had Lyme disease, and I cannot begin to express to you the amount of relief I felt, because I was like, oh good, I'm just gonna take some antibiotics and I'm gonna be better and it'll be fine. But in reality, I had been sick for again 7 years, so it really burrowed itself into my body, and it took a little bit more than 28 days worth of antibiotics. In fact, it took pretty much 4 years to get myself here where I am, which is a heck of a lot better than I think I've ever been in my entire life. But it took a good amount of work, if I could even get it to come out. Like I laugh about it now, but at the time, I don't know if I could do it again. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And I look at it as I saved my life, which is a little bit overwhelming in some respects, because, you know, obviously God was helping me. It wasn't just me. But I've been left here for a reason, and I do believe it is to share with you the fact that you can get better. Lyme really knocked me down and almost caused me to end my life, if I can be very honest and frank with you, because I just couldn't stand how I felt inside anymore. And I am grateful again that I finally got my diagnosis, which is something else I want to keep you educated about and informed about. But do know that the test that we have access to, the standard 2-tier test, is only 65% accurate. The longer you go with Lyme, the better you have a chance of actually getting a positive test, which in and of itself is not that encouraging. When I heard that, I was like, well, no wonder. I went for 7 years, so yeah, my test came back positive. But it is only 65% accurate, and so that's something to keep in mind if you're struggling with health challenges. You've not been able to get an answer, you don't feel like the answer they've given you is quite right. Continue to seek for more sensitive testing. You can get access to that through a company called igenix.com is their website. They're based out of California, but they are a much more specialized, sensitive lab that can help you to get a better, accurate test result, if you will. Kind of blows my mind to think that we have access to testing of all sorts, but for a diagnostic test of something so important, we only rely on something that's 65% accurate. I don't think most people even know that. But do know that if you're listening to me, that is something to keep in the back of your head. In Delaware, in fact, they'll have you sign a waiver stating when you go to take the test that if you get a negative result and you still don't feel well, to continue to seek medical treatment for Lyme disease, because they know that it's that much of a room for error with that test. So again, if you're struggling, Google the symptoms of Lyme. Know that there are about 100 different symptoms of Lyme disease. And so it does mimic quite a few different things. fibromyalgia, MS, Parkinson's, a lot of those things, they are actually finding the Lyme spirochete in these people that have been diagnosed with other ailments. And so Lyme takes a specialized treatment course, and you really want to figure out what that is. So again, the reason I think that I stand here today is to let you know that I was taken out for about 7 years. It has taken me pretty much 4 years to get better, and I am better than I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm actually very grateful for my experience with what I've gone through, because it has made me who I am. It has given me a whole new perspective on life and really made me into a stronger person. I was just talking to someone who said, you know, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And that couldn't be more true, because it really did almost kill me. And I made it back. I fought my way back. I also had Bartonella, anaplasmosis, cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr virus. There was just a lot of different things happening inside of me. And that was all due to the tick bite, which just caused my immune system to not be able to fight off a lot of this other stuff. So again, if you're struggling with unanswered health questions and you're not sure what's happening, do yourself a favor, get the actual sensitive test for Lyme. It might cost you a couple extra bucks. And if you think back just a few moments ago, I was talking about some of my co-infections. When I say that Lyme test only looks for Lyme. It doesn't look for the other things, for the Bartonella and for the other co-infections. So you have to get other testing done for that. But I think most doctors don't even realize that the co-infections exist to be an option to look for. And for me, I don't think I would be as well as I am now had I not gotten the diagnosis with those co-infections. So again, please keep this in mind. This has been now 11 years of my life that I have dealt with this illness. And I just want you to be aware again of the symptoms, to know of the faultiness of the testing. The accuracy is just not there yet for us, and you just have to be your own best advocate and do yourself a favor and continue to push. If you're not feeling right, don't give up on yourself. Take it from me, I gave up on myself for a while, and that just made the illness worse in my body. Had I gotten it treated sooner, it might not have taken me quite as long to get better. So it is a very time-sensitive illness. You want to go seek medical treatment right away. If you feel that you have been bit by a tick, go get treatment. Don't wait. Don't wait to find out if you're going to start to feel like poop in a few years. Go seek medical treatment right away. The sooner that you get treatment, generally speaking, the better your outcome is with this. Most people, I think they say 70% of people, if they get treatment right away, don't have any issues later. So again, be very mindful. Pennsylvania, the state that I live in, is the highest rate of infection state in the United States for 10 years now. I mean, that's pretty mind-blowing. So again, I think they should actually make this part of our standard physical every year if you live in a high rate state. Most of us here in the Northeast are, but I've been reading a lot of articles talking about California and Texas, some other areas that are not generally used to seeing problems with ticks that are now starting to see those. So just be mindful. Get yourself in the habit of doing a daily tick check. And again, just know if you do happen to come into contact with a tick, if you have Lyme disease, if you're suffering from chronic illness, that you can get better. I am the proof of that. Believe you can do it.